Hi, my name is Sam Holcman with the Architecture Center of Excellence. Thank you for taking a look at this very, very important presentation. And of course, it's titled Becoming an Early Winner with Artificial Intelligence, AI, by Optimizing the Use of the AI Engine. And of course, during this presentation, we will explain what this actually means to you to be the leader in your particular area using AI. What we have to recognize is that in an application, whether it's artificial intelligence or something else, there are four parts, there are four divisions within that application itself. The first is referred to as the procedure division, the processing engine part of an application that's there, the manipulation that is going on to actually produce some results based on data, and we'll get to that in just a moment. The second component of an application is what we refer to as the person-machine interface. So that is the interface between an individual and the application that they're using. The third is machine-to-machine division, and this particular area is sometimes referred to as the interfacing between one application and another. And the fourth, which is going to give you that early mover advantage, that competitive advantage in artificial intelligence, is what we refer to as the data division. Procedure division, person-machine interface division, machine-to-machine interface division, data division. The procedure division, the process division, is the engine that we're talking about. And that is where there has been an incredible movement, both in technology, the speed of processing over the decades that artificial intelligence has been on. Because I believe most of you know, artificial intelligence was introduced in some form or another in 1956, just a few days ago. So let's take a look at this data division for a moment. This is where you're going to get the real advantage of the AI engine. Turns out there are four types of training data, involved in artificial intelligence and otherwise, by the way. But let's just look at artificial intelligence and take a look at this. The first area, and that is the most common, is internet-related data, and that is AI accessible. It's just out there. And data on the internet has no provenance. And the word provenance simply means there's no history of ownership. You don't know where it came from or what it is or what the quality is or anything else about it. And it is, in quotes, using air quotes, free to use. No restrictions at all. And that could possibly tell you something about its quality. The second area is copyrighted data. And that's data that's also on the internet. And I want to explain what a copyright means if you don't know what that means. A copyright provides the exclusive legal right given to the originator or an assignee of intellectual property to print, publish, perform, film, or record literary, artistic, or musical material, and to authorize others to do the same. It is intellectual property that is owned by somebody, whether it's ourselves or others, whether it's the Wall Street Journal, whether it's the New York Times, whether it's, let's say, another publication, Consumers Reports, or any publication that's out there that has the copyright symbol is a protected area. And today, that area I refer to, unfortunately, as artificial intelligence theft. This is an area that is being explored widely in a lot of countries, unfortunately, not really aggressively in the United States. But for example, Prime Minister Premier Trudeau in Canada is actively going after that and passed some laws already, as in some other countries, including the EU. Now, copyrighted data. That's the thing that I'm referring to here, and I'm calling it for the AI engines or whoever's using this, not just the artificial intelligence engines, as AI theft. Now, what's fascinating is there's a young lady that recognized this quite some time ago, and her name, and probably you know who this is Taylor Swift. And this is the email that she wrote to Tim Cook when Apple introduced Apple Music. Please notice the highlighted areas, and of course you can read this on your own. I write this to explain why I'll be holding back my album. Her album was titled 1989, from the new streaming service, Apple Music. Now, what does she say? She says, look, I own this album. You don't have permission to stick it in your pipe called Apple Music. Don't do this. Because possibly she is big enough, so to speak, that she can get a lot of attorneys to address this, even to somebody like Apple. The last sentence is just beautiful, where she provides an analogy that we should all remember. And what she said was, quite simply, beautifully put, we don't ask you for free iPhones. Please don't ask us to provide you with our music for no compensation. So what she's saying, look, Mr. Cook, you've got this service out there, and I'll give you a little background. Don't ask us to give you this service for free. Now, what was the background of that phrase? Tim Cook said to the general public, ourselves, we're introducing this new service called Apple Music. Great stuff. We are going to give it to you, the consuming public, for 90 days at no cost. Now, please remember what he was giving away. He was giving away Taylor Swift's intellectual property, and others, of course, with no compensation. And she says, no, that isn't going to happen. And she gives an explanation of why. Now, to Apple's credit, there's a data point here that we need to look at for others that are doing this evil right now. Apple, the next morning, Mr. Cook got out there, so to speak, and said, you know what? I'm paraphrasing, of course. We made a mistake. We made a mistake. This is not right. So we are going to compensate the artists for the next 90 days for the music that is being downloaded while this trial is going on to the general public. So the general public, we will absorb that cost, but to the artists, we will pay you for that period of time. That's what we have to recognize is the issue right now. And in a lot of countries outside of the United States, there isn't just talk about this, there's actually action. And I hope we have the same thing here. This is not to scream and yell and holler at Google and Facebook and all these AI vendors, but let's wake up here. Let's figure out that there's some fairness that is required, let alone looking at the quality, which we'll get to right now. So if you believe for some reason that these first two categories should be public, okay, how about categories 3 and 4? Category 3 is what we call a balanced exchange of information. This is where two parties exchange something of value. For example, exchanging an email address for an article or a presentation. By the way, the AI engines can't get at this because in order for that to happen, the AI engines would have to provide something and then get back in return something else. Now, some of you are saying, well, all they have to do is to put in an email address in there. Well, if that's a poor situation on the part of the people having the intellectual property where they don't check that email, then they should address that also. But let's give you an example. A very prestigious organization that you probably know is Gartner Group. You want certain types of research from them, you'll have to put in your email address. Of course, that is validated by Gartner and some obviously software in the background, and then you get that particular article. There's an exchange of value that's there. And of course, the same thing on our site. Certain things are in the public domain, even though they're copyrighted. We hope that people maintain the integrity of that copyright. Other things, we have another level of protection we're looking at because the value is now increased, in our opinion, and therefore we're asking for information in exchange. The fourth category is where the crown jewels are. And that's where this too often used phrase occurs, best practice. Best practice information is also not accessible to the AI engine. A best practice is a competitive advantage that both parties believe is of value for an exchange. A best practice is a method, process, procedure, framework, or approach that provides an individual and organization with a measurable competitive advantage in a given area of interest and is not generally available to others. It is the DNA of the organization that provides the competitive advantage. Best practices cost money or some other form of compensation. They are not on the internet generally available. They are not accessible to the AI engines that are out there. And so, for example, once again, another very influential advisory firm is Forrester. If you want a certain type of best practice that Forrester has put together, you have to write a check for about $1,500 and you get that. Same situation in our universe. If you want the best practices for enterprise architecture, you need to come to one of our courses. 4 categories of information: internet related, AI accessible, copyrighted data, which is now a concern for those of us that are in the world of generating intellectual property. We believe it is AI theft. That is possibly a harsh word. Give me another word, not a politically correct word possibly, but a word that actually is truthful. And of course, the third and fourth, which you as the consuming public should recognize, the AI engines aren't using, and by the way, aren't getting at, and also the general internet isn't getting that information, are what we refer to as a balanced exchange or best practice information. So how do you get this competitive advantage? Because what you want to actually do is to harness the engine. Remember the 4 pieces of an application, but get data, information to work on that engine that is outstanding and actually traceable. Traceability and transparency of the information, and has a pedigree, provenance, and a best practice. And we call that slight change, not AI, but what we call it is EAI, Enterprise Artificial Intelligence. And what one of our clients have called it is Enterprise Amalgamated Information. And basically, it's using the power of that engine, but not the sludge that's out there on the internet that people call data. Yes, I'm being a little direct with you to make a point here, obviously. And what that will bring across is an architected, agile solution by using the processing engine and this vetted data in an environment that works upon itself and trains and keeps getting better and better and better and better. It doesn't mean that you can't buy data that is best practices to also incorporate into your data distribution center if you know where it came from. But I sure wouldn't mess that thing up with the stuff that's on the internet that you have no idea is true or not. And the number of examples that are coming up that are causing issues is just startling right now. So the thing that you have to recognize to actually have a competitive advantage here is data. It's all based on good data and the use of that data within your own environment. And what you want to do is not just start filling this thing up, but actually build an architected data environment so that you can build a classification structure. Think Dewey Decimal System for a moment, where you see where the data is and what those classifications are and how much you have based on a classification system. So your data, your competitive advantage, it's your fuel. Data is the fuel in the world right now for intellectual capital. It's about data. It's the real competitive advantage behind AI. And so data architecture is what you have built, a Dewey Decimal System, so to speak, for designing, constructing a data resource that is business driven, not just general type of things in an encyclopedia, so to speak, or a knowledge base, but to your world, whatever industry or group that you're in, based on real world understanding and implemented in appropriate operating environments. And that results in a data resource that provides a consistent foundation across all your organizational boundaries to provide identifiable, available, high quality data to support your business activities and strategies. You can trace this back to the goals and strategies and objectives that you're trying to meet. So what we have here is the EAI, your enterprise artificial intelligence engine, will have access and keep building on balanced exchange information and best practice information, and of course, the copyrighted information that you own. And then we can leave internet-related information for intellectual entertainment, as I like to call it. We're going to recognize then the pathway to an agile enterprise is the use of the AI engine with good data. So how do you become an early winner in that area? That's how you do it. It's really kind of straightforward. And of course, it would be our pleasure to work with you. If you want more information about this, please contact us. It is our pleasure to set up a call or a discussion with any of you on this topic. Here's who you've been listening to for the past half an hour or so. Thank you for listening. Your journey begins to become an early winner with AI by doing what we talked about here. Nothing is really preventing you from moving forward other than inertia for what is out there today. Looking for that silver bullet that will make the pain go away. There's not really much pain here. A little bit of work, rethinking. Thanks for listening, and I truly hope that this presentation brings some new thoughts into your environment. And again, it would be our pleasure to speak with any of you on this topic more. Stay healthy, stay well, and remember, if it's free, caveat emptor, let the buyer beware. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning in to R.E.A.L Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.